I got it. His name is Mr. Larry Mojola, okay, and is the director of the Lagos State Safety Commission. Now, Lagos State has so many parastatals. Let me be very honest, I heard of this parastatal for the first time, Mr. Mojola, so about a week ago when we started making moves for you to come here. What does the Safety Commission do?
Good morning, Uncle Jimmy.
Morning, how are you?
Very well. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
By the way, you share the same name with a private kid fan of mine. I think Mojola is Mojola is about 12 now. Okay. But that's her own first name. Okay. I call her Mojo. But I won't call her. Okay, so what exactly does the Safety Commission do? What are you in charge of? Because when I look through the profile, I could have sworn that you almost have the same functions with LASEPA.
Yes, Uncle Jimmy, the Safety Commission has a lot. The commission was established in the month of July 2011 by the Lagos State House of Assembly and has responsibility to formulate policies, provide advisory, and also be the regulatory body on all matters regarding safety of lives and property across the state.
It's safety also of lives and property.
Yes.
Across the state in all forms.
Across the state in all forms. It's also meant to be the body that will coordinate all government ministries, parastatals, and all relevant bodies with regards matters of safety. Safety of lives, safety within properties, individual safety, workplace safety, domestic safety, and public safety.
That's quite a long brief you have.
It is, absolutely.
It's quite a long brief you have. I way back sometime about 10, 15 years ago, I was a consultant in another company. I used to consult for the other company. And one thing that thrilled me was their passion for safety. I mean, we'd have a function, and the first thing we said, ladies and gentlemen, for 5 minutes, please listen and listen well. This door leads in, this door leads out. In case there's any problem, don't worry. This wall you're looking at is collapsible and you cannot get out of it. In case of this and in case of that, and the toilets are here. You find that we don't play a premium on safety at all in most of our public places. I'm sure so you have a Herculean job on your hands.
Absolutely, Uncle Jimmy. It's the safety moment that you referred to. Safety moment, safety briefings. It's
called safety moments,
yes, or safety briefings. And it's a must. As they say, safety first. You put safety first before everything you do. And that's what we're trying to do in the Safety Commission. We're trying to now ensure that Lagosians, the citizenry, now start to think safety first before they act. Safety on the roads, safety on the waterways, safety at home, safety in the schools. Safety first in everything. It's trying to bring up a safety culture now.
Okay, must you be consulted before a church, an auditorium, whatever? Must you be consulted before it is put to public use?
Absolutely. It's one of the things in our mandate. The Safety Commission has the mandate to issue or withdraw overall safety compliance certificates at all levels. At all levels. So we're meant to be consulted. If you want to build a house, you need to get a safety compliance certificate. If you own a school, we'll carry out risk assessments, we'll identify possible hazards, and we'll put in a submission to mitigate against these hazards.
Is that before it's put to use or after? Wouldn't you have your own input from the construction stage, like plans are sent to you for approval and so on?
Absolutely, Uncle Jimmy. It's at the inception. So we'll look at your safety plan. It's called the safety plan. So as you're planning the house, you're building, there's also a safety plan looking at escape routes, evacuation procedures. In case you have a fire, what do you do? It's a whole lot.
Okay, but let me. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I'm not trying to disorganize people, but I'm a safety conscious person. Haven't been involved in a fire before. You won't believe it. I was like Tarzan. I jumped, came down by a rope from the 8th floor of the NIDB building. I can't go down one step here now, but on that day, where you're faced with death, I was in NIDB building, it caught fire. We didn't know that there was more smoke than fire. And there were 8 floors of parking. So something told me that, look, even these cars start catching fire, they're going to start exploding. So the area boys threw a rope up, okay? We tied it around the pillar, and we were able to use the rope to get down to the wall of the next building, which is about 3 floors up. After the area boys did for about 10, 15 of us, the next person, set of people who came, they were paying toll. I was in Milazon, you know, and I was covered in soot on that day. But look at even the government houses, for example. I have a big quarrel. I have a very big quarrel, a constant quarrel with some of my friends and whatever who are, they call Jakonde supporters. Look at the Jakonde houses. The Lagos State government, you see, Lagos State government is Lagos State government across the board. Either from Mudashiru's time or Ahigbe's time till now, it's still one Lagos State government. Look at what is happening to the Lagos State government's houses in, say, Ekmori or Isolo. These houses have no, first of all, they have no balcony. In case there's a fire, there is no back staircase. Okay, now when you get into the flat, the first place, your first port of call is the kitchen. That itself is a potential for fire. Then right on top of the door there is the electric meter and all that. Don't you think that is a faulty thing that is being done and should be corrected by the state government?
Absolutely. The first incident.
No balcony. You remember I said.
Yes. It's. I'll just refer to the first incident that you mentioned. That must have been very scary. But again, it's a case of no planning. Because what should have happened is you should have had a full emergency drill. You should have regular fire drills. You should have a muster point. You should have emergency routes. You should have escalation procedures. So if there's a fire, everybody knows what they're meant to do.
Yes.
It's not the time when you get into the panic mode. It's almost like you've been prepared, you've been primed, you're ready to go when that fire starts. And it's part of what we're trying to do, to change the narrative, to change the culture, to bring safety to the fore. And we'll then refer to the houses that you mentioned. Again, it's a case of continuous improvement. I suppose as at the time they were building these houses,
there were no fires.
There were fires, but
there were no architects.
They didn't think safety. They didn't think safety. They would probably be more concerned with the look and feel of the building, and they didn't think safety. But the world has moved. The world has evolved. And in the last 20 years, particularly if you look at the 9/11, a lot has happened since then with regard to safety. Safety at our airports, safety before you build. I was driving past as I was coming. I noticed that even the designs of our buildings have changed now with regard to safety.
Mr. Majola, I know you're a government official, government this and that. What are you going to do specifically about these low-cost houses? They're a disaster in the making. What is the state government going to do? These are government houses sold to poor people. I don't believe that because people are poor, anything should be thrown at them. You do find people saying, at least the governor then tried. I don't believe in that. It's the same Lagos State government that built Shita and all these areas and are properly constructed. But I don't want to go into the politics of it. What concerns me now, because I drive past these houses every day, what is the state government going to do specifically about these low-cost houses that have no regard at all for safety? For example, are you going to now create a back staircase for them to come? Because I don't know if you can get a balcony out of those houses.
It's a case-by-case analysis.
In this case, particular case.
What we've been doing in Safety Commission is we've been doing risk assessments across public buildings. And we identify some of these infractions, some of these anomalies. So it's and we've started. We've done for schools. We've done for primary, secondary, and tertiary schools.
Okay.
Even identifying some of these infractions that you've mentioned. And there's a process where these corrections will be made. We call it corrective action plan.
Okay.
Now, that's with regard to the schools. We've started with the schools, and we're moving to the courthouses. And the housing stock is also one of the things that is in our radar.
So
we'll be working with the Ministry of Housing. Yes, it's in the making.
It's in the making.
Yes.
Can you give us a timeline for it?
6 months.
Within 6 months?
Yes. 6
you want
months.
to go outside and make a call and come back?
No. 6 months. I can say for a fact that in 6 months,
what is going to happen
in
6 months to the low-cost houses in Ekmori, in Isolo, and so on and so forth? Within 6 months' time, what exactly is going to happen?
In 6 months,
yes,
the deliverables would be to identify the root cause of these problems and to put a proper plan forward with regards to correcting them. But within the 6 months,
and who do you think might be footing the bill for that?
It will be difficult
That's
to say
difficult
at
for
this
you
point.
to
Yes,
say.
yes,
Let me be fair
yes,
to you.
yes,
That'd
yes,
be
it'll
difficult
to say at this
But
point.
I hope that we shouldn't wait for disasters to happen before we now react.
And that's what the point I was going to drive at. That
Yes.
at this point, within that 6 months, engagement will start with a lot of the users, and there's some very soft remedies that are not technical, that are not physical. Just even having drills with the people that live within these facilities would help them. They will stay alert. There's what we call situational awareness.
The places where the fire, for example, could start from are at the entrance of the buildings. That's why I'm worried. They're at the entrance of the building. Something needs to be done. I think that if you hadn't thought of it, because I wouldn't blame you, can't think of everything. But now is the time for you to think that, go back straight to the governor and say, this has happened. These are people at the lower end income level. And we shouldn't make it look as if only the elite can enjoy what we call the dividends of democracy. This might be the time to say, look, can we rush back staircases here? That's the least we can do. Because, like I said, at the entrance of the building is the kitchen, the meter on top. Those are the two potential areas for fires. Well, let's move into more general areas because it's 20 past, and I don't want to bog you down with that. But just please take note of that.
Thank you.
And we hope that in six months' time, I'm going to put it in Philip. Write it down in my diary. I'm going to put it in my diary. We'll get you back here. Because I have quite a few relatives, and even if I don't have relatives, I don't like this idea of thinking, because it's for poor people. Back in the day, you were not in government. This government was not there, but back in the day, you built houses without toilets, without this, without windows and doors, and say because ilé economy. But the same government in the 60s built the whole of Shita Akerele, and so those houses in Akerele. I sat down one day and I said to myself, "Excuse me, these houses look the way they are now. They were really what you would call room and parlor. That is one room sitting and one bedroom, kitchen, toilet, and store." You know, I mean, so it just occurred to me one day. I said, well, these houses were room and what do you call room? But let's leave that. That's now the other part that concerns me. We will be having regular dialogue with you. Okay.
Yes.
If I want to set up a religious place of worship, for example, do I need to invite your commission to get an approval before I can operate such a place?
Yes, so we work very closely with the Ministry of Physical Planning.
Okay.
At the point where you are getting your planning permit.
Yes.
You need to get
you need to sign off.
Yes, you need to get a sign off from Safety Commission, where we would review your drawings.
Okay.
We will look at your parking adequacy or near adequacy. We'll look at traffic impact assessment and a host of other things.
If you look at traffic impact assessment, there are loads of these houses, religious and whatever, that are parked in areas where there are no parking at all. I give you an example. There's a road in Sulere called Falolu. There are about 6 churches on that street. All of them now park on the street. On Sunday, it is impossible to get by there. Do you think you could have given approval to those churches?
Certainly not.
So what are you going to do about them?
It's a case of there's so many across the state, and a lot of them they're not new builds. They're probably remodels.
They're remodeled and converted.
Converted, yes.
Is that even allowed? You have a 3-bedroom flat, then before you know it, it's been converted into a place of worship.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
So what are you going to do about this?
The Ministry of Physical Planning, you can see that they've been doing a lot of enforcement. They're taking it in stages. It's a case of correcting some of the wrongs in the past and trying to ensure that we now start to do the right thing moving
but
forward.
they have been pussyfooting. And I'm sure, even though we might not want to admit, you have a fair idea of what could have been going on. They have been pussyfooting. Go down to Yabai, Butemeta, Lagos Island and see what the developers are building. Who, in his right mind, would have approved such structures? Safety again, that's why you have so many buildings coming down. If the buildings were going to come down on only the owners of the building, I wouldn't mind. But you never know you never know. You could even just park, say, excuse me, can I use a toilet here? As you enter the place, the building comes down on your head. So you have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely.
Do you feel overwhelmed by the Lagos situation?
At times. I'll be very honest.
I'm glad you admitted
at times,
it.
yeah. I mean, there are times when I but someone has to do the job, you know.
But do you get funny phone calls? Let me tell you what I mean. As soon as you get to say, let me use a safe place now that nobody can say, you get to number 93 Wickman Street that doesn't exist. then you want to, then you get a phone call from one chief, something who is a trustee of the party of this and that. Say, "My lord, how do you handle such things?"
Uncle Jimmy, you're putting me on the spot here.
That's the whole idea. That's why you're here. Because you see, because that is the bane of the problem that we have in this country, and I do feel sorry for you for the job you're doing. You're going to have to step on toes. How far are you ready to do that?
We try to be professional as much as possible.
Try.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a culture that we need to start to think about.
Yeah, I think you need to make your mark in that area,
yes.
because generally our people are indisciplined. We spoke about it this morning as far as COVID, whatever. Our people are indisciplined. Indeed, on Saturday on the discourse, I'm going to have the I think it's another Director General of La SEPA, and I'm interested in knowing when she comes on Saturday how far we've gone in regulating religious practice in terms of their structures and whatever. Are they obeying the laws? Now, this is where I stand, just so that we can have a discussion. People who want to flout the law, if they did it and it collapsed on their head, I don't mind. That's their own cup of tea. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Somebody just taking a walk down the neighborhood or whatever. And then people need to understand that what you do doesn't affect just you.
It's like things that's going in the market. Yes. Yeah. It can come back to affect you.
Yes.
And that's why it will still go back to this issue of the culture. A lot of our people are not safety conscious.
Yes.
And it's part of our mandate to continue to sensitize, to continue to carry out massive advocacy. We do this regularly in the markets. We go around the markets across the districts.
Markets and everywhere.
Yes, we've done so many of that in the last 6 months. Talking because you remember there was a time when we had a lot of market fires.
Yes.
This has reduced drastically now.
But market fires have reduced, but unofficial markets have sprung up. Streets are closed, turned into markets, areas. Look at Computer Village. Computer Village used to be a residential, back in the day when Fela was playing there, it used to be a residential area. Now you can hardly walk the streets there. In a place like Computer Village, I wonder how you control them. But that's after I need to take a commercial break. That is it's not the battery. What else is in the car? What is that? That thing in the car?
Box.
It's not the brain box now. The brain box is for it to function well. There's something that you tie the battery to that ignites it. No, they don't use Kickstarters anymore. Okay, it's the Daily Digest with Jimi Disu, and I'm happy to have Mr. Lanre Mojola, who is the Director General of Lagos State Safety Commission. I've thrown him under the bus a few times, but I'm not here to make life happy for any government official. Not because I don't love them, but just because we want the work done. So we'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll start taking your calls and reading your SMSs and WhatsApp messages and Twitters. And tweets, tweets. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial. Daily Digest returns in a moment. You're listening to Jimi Disu, right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
So you're welcome back to the Daily Digest with Jimi Disu. The funny thing about running 3 programs is sometimes you tend to mix the names up. So I almost said the disco that I remember. No, today's Daily Digest. Today is Thursday. Okay, and the station you're listening to, of course, the dial was set there before you listen to it, is Nigeria Info 99.3. Do I have a caller, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
Very fine. My name is Israel. I'm calling from Unilag. I'm a first-time caller.
Good morning, Pastor Israel. How are you?
My name is not a pastor. Okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm actually, there's a place called Apology.
Yes.
Very close to Unilag.
Yes.
If you see the amount of structures they are building there,
Mm-hmm.
so much, so high. So I'd like your guests to send people to go and check if those structures are qualified.
Okay.
To fall on people's head.
What frightens you about these structures?
You see four-story building everywhere. So you don't know whether they are strong or
Yes, whether they've been properly built.
So that I can
okay.
access those stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think the worry, Mr. Mojola, which is not under your direct whatever, especially these developers' houses. I'm not an architect. I'm not even a quantity surveyor, like a friend of mine who prides himself in being the best quantity surveyor. I always joke with him. I'm not a quantity surveyor. I'm not any of those. Philip, why are you laughing? But a look at a building can easily tell you if it's been well. I'm not even talking of the finishes, but look at it. Looking at some of the sand that comes out of the building from a hole that has been made will give you a fair idea. How do we solve this problem? Developers have become a nuisance in Yaba, in Lagos Island, in certain areas in the state, and this Abule Oja that is talking about.
It's easy to build afresh, and it's easy to get it right when you're starting.
Starting afresh, yes.
It's easy to. It's more difficult to try and correct something that has had an error in it, and it's part of the commitment of Mr. Governor to ensuring that we start to correct some of those ills of the past, so that we can move forward to a 21st century that is befitting of Lagos State government.
Yeah.
A Lagos state where the citizenry will feel proud that they're Lagosians. But again, it's a lot of stock that needs to be corrected, and that journey has started. I'm aware of this. A lot of some of these developments have been identified. But again, there's a due process. There's a legal process that has to be followed, and at times there are hitches, there are delays. But the journey has started, and that journey will. Definitely, we will reach that journey if we're consistent. It's about being consistently moving in the right direction.
I think we need to fast track that and see if we can cut red tape. We're talking about lives here. It's so embarrassing. When I read the foreign papers, I hardly hear of buildings going down. But when you read the papers here, it's always one building going down somewhere. In some cases, a 4-story building on the 4th floor of that badly built flat is a school. That happened on Lagos Island. You remember? You must have remembered that.
Absolutely.
In school. But the times we are in dictate that I now ask you about COVID, okay, which was the primary reason why you were here. But let me assure our listeners that I have this passion about dialoguing with government officials, so we can get a sense of how we can make our society better. So you'll be here again. Absolutely. And again and again.
I'll
and
be
again.
more than happy, Uncle Joe.
I'll be more than happy to host you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. So, so COVID. What in this new COVID whatever? What exactly is your brief? Your agency's brief of your involvement in ensuring compliance. What is your brief?
Ever since the COVID pandemic started, right about February in Lagos State, the Safety Commission has been at the forefront of a number of things, ensuring and restricting gatherings. Initially, it was about 50 people, and then went to 25, and then to 20. So at that time, we were out there in the forefront, ensuring that people were not gathering, because the virus does not spread by itself. It's people that move it.
Yeah.
And this was a bit of a Herculean task, because at that time, a lot of people didn't even know what this COVID was. They didn't believe in it. Even as we speak, a lot of people still don't believe in it. So it was us talking to them, sensitizing them, and letting them know that these are the dangers. I mean, you can imagine people that are prepared for weddings, and then we say they can't host a wedding more than 50 people. So there was a lot of bad, ill thoughts, and but it was about us being consistent until we got the message out there. Then we went into the first lockdown, the extended lockdown, and then we've now moved to a phase of easing, and we're easing back and people back to work. Businesses are starting, but in a safe manner. And part of our mandate is the production of guidelines. So we've produced guidelines across different sectors, from construction to manufacturing to hospitality, entertainment, people that have restaurant business, religious centers. And as we ease as we further ease the sector, because we know that we would have to live with this virus for quite a while. It's not going to go anytime soon. Yes. So these guidelines, we now start to educate, we start to train the participants within these sectors as to how they can ensure that they can go back to business. Not business as usual. It's not business the new way, but in a safe and a systematic manner.
Now, let's take the one that is more general. Okay, let's start from there. I believe that of the corporate whatever they would know. I mean, if you own a restaurant by now, I will assume that you know the protocols. If you don't know the protocols, you have yourself to blame. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's take the more general ones like burials, naming ceremonies, whatever. What is the maximum number of people that can gather in a safe manner for any event?
At the moment, it's 50 people. 50
At the
people,
moment?
yes. 50 people for weddings, 50 people for funerals. Not more than 50, and there must be a minimum spacing of 2 meters.
Ikomonko?
The same thing.
Because I don't want people to get away thinking that, they said it's just wedding. So even for Ikomo,
Absolutely.
chieftaincy titles, name it, the maximum is 50.
Yes.
Now, if in my neighborhood, I discover that some people are contravening this, what do I do?
You would report, sir. We act a lot on whistleblowers. We work very closely. I explained earlier that we work with other ministries and departments and agencies. We work very closely with the LNSC, the Neighborhood Security.
Okay.
They're everywhere, and they've got a large number of people spread across the state. And they act as whistleblowers. So once they report, we go there, we speak to the people. If they're difficult, we involve the police. And this is on a daily basis. Our teams are out there every day.
Let's look at a practical scenario. I think I might need to bring you back next week so we can go through this very well. So, just now, let's assume that in my neighborhood I see that kind of thing happening. So I pick up my whistle, I blow my whistle, nobody answers. I need to pick up my phone. What number do I call?
0818
Yes.
100 2233.
That was very fast. You need to call it again.
Okay, I'll repeat. 0818
Yes.
100
Yes.
2233.
Now, is it is it one of many numbers, or is it a number that will spread itself?
It's a hotline that goes
It's a hotline.
directly to the Safety Commission. However, you still have the 767 and the 112 number that goes to the command center.
Okay, now is it a 24-hour number?
Yes, it is.
It is. So I hope you guys out there listening, ladies and gentlemen, if you see more than 50 people, am I right?
Absolutely.
Under any dispensation, because I give you the last layer period, there was so much irresponsibility. I think it's called Idil Kabir, but Ilaya, everybody knows what Ilaya is. I saw a lot of that. So in a church, you shouldn't be more than 50? Is that what
So
the law
for the
says?
church services
Yes.
and for the mosques,
And the mosque services, yes.
they have exceptions. So we can have your mosque prayers on Friday. For Christians that worship on Saturdays, they can have a service on Saturday. And for the churches, they can worship on Sundays. Now, what we've said, the guideline is not more than 50% of your occupancy.
Who determines 50%?
So, say for example,
You want them to cut the church into and use half of it?
once you spread out,
Yes.
once you spread out,
Yes.
once you spread out to about 2 meters in terms of spacing, you would almost have a 50%.
That's when you say
occupancy.
2 meters. What is that in feet and inches?
That's
I'm old school.
That's 6 feet, sir.
So all I need to do is I'm standing somewhere. I get a 6-footer to lie down next to me.
Probably the
and tell the
distance
next
between-
man to say,
A little bit about the distance between
Philip,
us.
are you 6 feet? Come and lie down here and let me see if it's 6 feet. Or maybe
The easiest way to do
the
it
easiest
is
way to do it is to
just
get
cut
the
six.
churches to mark.
A lot of them have done that.
Yes,
A lot
and
of
the
them
mosques
have
to
done that.
mark.
Absolutely.
Now you know
Put X.
it's very important. For example, in the case of Islam, there's something we call safu. Safu means everybody closes up. I think it's important that they should know that the next person to you. Sometimes they say you should close up toe to toe. It's not going to happen. The next person next to you should be 6 feet away.
So with regards to the religious centers, we've had
Yes.
very intensive discussions and engagement sessions with them. In fact, last week, Wednesday, we had a detailed training of about 3 hours.
With who now?
With the NIREC.
Okay.
NIREC, the Christian Association of Nigeria, the imams, the chief
Beautiful,
imam was there.
beautiful.
And a number, about 50 leaders, religious leaders within the state. This was coordinated between the Safety Commission and the Ministry of Home Affairs, where we went through the guidelines bit by bit.
But what
line
about
by line.
traditional worship?
Uncle Jimmy?
Yes, now. Every time we talk about religions, we always talk about Christians and Muslims, and in the first instance, we are Nigerians or Africans. What about
The same principles
Egungun
are-
Festival? The same principles apply.
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you consulted them? No, I want to use you as to correct that mindset. I'm a strong believer in our traditional religion. We've been colonized by the British, yes, fine. We are now. I'm a Christian, by the way, for the record. even though I was born into a Muslim family. But that's where God wanted me to be, and I'm comfortable being a Christian. But that doesn't mean that I will not place a premium on a traditional whatever. Because you know the hypocrisy that is involved. Half the people who are in the churches and the mosques run to those places. And I think one of the problems with us as Africans is because we threw the baby away with the bathwater. The Chinese and the Indians didn't do that, and you can see where they are. But I won't let you into that debate. but I think, let me take a call. So give me a breather. Hello, morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
My name is
Adenosi Patrick. The one and only Adenosi Patrick. Before you talk about whatever you want to talk about, what is the latest situation with traffic?
That's what part of what I want to talk to Mr. Larry.
Okay.
His portfolio covers advocacy and enlightenment.
Yes.
When any incident happens, from road accident to building collapse, a lot of people, the crowd, gathered.
Yes.
What is your agency doing with respect to managing crowd at incident points between you and LASEMA? And lastly, most buildings that are collapsing were buildings standing as at the point of the bomb blast in Maryland. The blast happened in Maryland. Houses in Lekki Phase 1 had their glasses shattered.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the structural defect that had on buildings between Maryland and VI.
Mm-hmm.
Find out, has government done structural checks on any building that is 2 floors till date? Good morning.
Okay. You heard that, didn't you, Patrick? He ran away. I wanted to ask him more questions.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Hello?
Yes. Go on.
Good morning.
Morning, sir. Who's calling?
This is Comrade Ayegame Felix. Comrade Ayegame Felix.
Oh, yeah, comrade. Yeah. Okay, comrade. How are you, sir?
Actually, when we are discussing issue in Nigeria, truly very sweet, and you were enjoying the discourse. But when it comes to the physical implementation, that is where we have issue. That is where the issue are.
Yes.
All the grammar we are speaking on COVID-19 and whatever, it just, to me, at least in Lagos, I can manage a little rules and regulation on COVID-19. But if you go outside this Lagos, I don't think anybody is even picking up about anything COVID-19. So the issue we are facing in Nigeria is just that we thank God it did happen the way it happened all over. All this, my brothers talk, analyzing and whatever, if you have issue to call today, even in your area, you have an issue, you call. Nothing will be done about it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me explain what he's trying to say, Mr. Mojola. He is just worried that it appears to him that typically all government is about rhetoric when it comes to implementation. They're caught flat out. Let me get something from you. If you anticipate that a crowd could gather, not in the manner Adenosi said it, for example, if you look at the videos of Buruji Kashamo's funeral, I don't know if it was, I think that was in Ogun State, so that absolves you from that. But if you did have a situation like that, do you have a way of preempting such a gathering? Do you have the authority to do so? Do you have the capability to do so? Like, for example, it was reported one time that the chief security officer of a highly exposed politician here died, and that the crowd gathered. It was said there were more than 50. I don't know. I didn't see the evidence. But that also he was buried in his house in an estate. That's a story for another day. But do you have the wherewithal to move into a place, an authority, and stop that kind of action from taking place?
Yes, to a large extent, yes. And we've stopped a number of crowds.
Really?
Yes.
Can you give us 2 examples?
Since a lot of them are private events. Yeah, weddings,
You
funerals.
stopped weddings?
Yes, we've had to.
Okay, now let's paint the
Birthdays.
scenario so our listeners can actually. What happened in this case? You got wind that there was going to be a wedding.
Absolutely.
A whistleblower told you.
A whistleblower, yes.
So what did you do? You closed the venue.
We would go there.
Yes.
We would meet with them. We would explain to them that they need to speak to their guests to see how they can reduce the numbers to the acceptable limits.
Yeah.
An event that they can't, we would have to shut the event, and we've had to do this. We're not happy to be shutting events, but we have to do this.
People must learn discipline.
Because people have to be disciplined. We've had some events shut down while the food has the banquet halls ready, people ready to eat, but because of the crowd. These are unusual times. We will still go back to the normal life that we're all used to sometime in the future. But we all need to come together. I keep saying it, and I'll reiterate it, sir, that our collective safety is dependent on individual responsibility. And this is something that Mr. Governor always continues to reiterate every time, that it's literally impossible to police a city of 22 to 24 million people. We all need to realize that these are unusual times, and this is the time to call to duty.
Okay, for example, these weddings that you stopped, did you have to be there?
I went
personally.
Personally, yes.
Was there any attempt to try to convince you?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Typically.
Oh yes.
Yes,
absolutely. But we go with the press.
So no underhanded.
Yes, we go with the press. So it's clear we're not.
That's a good one.
We're not. We're not violent. We're very non-aggressive. We speak to them. We continue to convince them.
Do you appeal to them or do you enforce?
We appeal first, and then when we realize that they are being stubborn, then we enforce. Yes.
Do you have a particular uniform that your people wear?
Yes. Anytime we go out, we have
fully kitted.
We have our hard hats or our baseball caps with COVID-19 task force.
Okay.
We have our high-vis jackets, and we always have our ID cards.
That's good. This agency was set up when?
It was set up in 2011 by the House of Assembly.
Who was governor then?
Mr. Babatunde Rajapaksa.
Fashola. Oh, I see. So you've been in operation for
9 years.
9 years. It's quite. Somebody here says, Yomi from Berger says, how safe is Lagos environment itself from slanting electric poles, non-functional street lights, road median protruding into right of way? I'd like to ask you, have you ever paid a visit to the fire station that is near railway, near the Nigerian Railway Corporation, the one by Apapa Road?
No.
I think you need to take a visit there, because every time I pass there, which is almost daily, there are no fire engines there. I don't know whether it is a federal fire service. Sorry, sir.
It might be federal.
But even if it's federal, I mean, shouldn't there be fire engines? Because I'm sure you're not too happy with the firefighting service that we have in Lagos. I'm sure you're not too happy with that. Are you?
There's a need for
the people can't see you not.
There's a need. There's a need for more investment in safety in fire. But it's the overall. There's a huge infrastructure deficit that has accumulated over time, and trying to change this within a limited period is so much work, and that's why we're prioritizing. It goes to the scale of what are the priorities, what are the absolute requirements, what are the important things that are required right now, and it's a tough job, but somebody has to do it, and our governor is doing a fantastic job.
Well, you wouldn't say otherwise. I mean, you wouldn't say he's not doing a fantastic job, even if he wasn't. But we recognize the fact that he says he's doing a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Now, just stating the obvious,
But he is. He's doing a good job. Well, that's the obvious.
No, we're not too happy. So far, we were very happy with him during COVID. And I staked every reputation I had, saying that between himself and his deputy, they have the capacity to run the state. I didn't add all the other extraneous things that might stop that from happening. But so far, in recent times, we've not been too happy with the environment, with traffic. But we can see efforts being made. The traffic that you had along Eco Bridge and so on and so forth, finally, a small hole that caused that traffic for months has been filled. And therefore, there's some form of free flow. Like you said, there's been a serious infrastructural deficit. And therefore, it makes your job 50 times more difficult.
Absolutely.
But we hope that the culture will change and that we'll get these things in place from the very beginning rather than wait and start managing crisis.
Yes.
But as you live here, please don't forget the plight of the poor people who live in Ikmori, Isolo, these places, for the government to quickly put in safety measures in the houses in which they live in. I don't think the fact that a man is poor, or like they will say, is a mekuno, it means that he can die a chicken death at any time. We need to be fair to all. Who is this now? Please, when you do send in a tweet or WhatsApp message, let's remember to add your name. This one, the DP has that of a small boy. The boy is about 6 or 7. Where's the name again? It's not. So please remember to add your name. It can't be this boy that is. This boy is just about 3 or 4 years old. And he looks like he wants to wee-wee. It's just... Anyway, this one says... He's holding his one. Says, "Good morning, Uncle Jimmy. I hope the contact is calling out will be swift to answer online because there are some remote areas that do not obey the law, even during lockdown or business as usual." And he says, "Can you please read that number again?" Which you have to do in less than a minute because we'll soon be rounding up. Can you call that number again?
The number, it's 0818
Yes.
100
Yes.
2233.
And that's at your office.
That's the hotline directly.
The hotline.
To
Your office is in Alausa.
It's within the Alausa campus.
Within the Alausa complex.
Yes.
Don't you think it might be better if you could operate from a building that is more accessible? People can run in and run out.
Well, because
maybe you should make that presentation to the governor.
Okay.
Rather than have to go to the Alausa complex. Which floor is it? Which block? Just like be in a place in GRA or something that people can run to and is, identifiable. I think that would be nice.
Good suggestion.
That would be nice. Good suggestion. If you don't suggest it, I will suggest it to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mojola. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I'll come back, definitely. There's so much to talk about in terms of safety.
Yes.
It's impossible to cover.
And one thing I always believe in is that we have to collaborate. You don't just sit down and criticize government officials, okay? You have to collaborate with them and help, because look, if you succeed, we succeed. Absolutely. If you fail, we fail. And people should stop seeing government as being alien, as saying that them. There's no them in governance. It's us. So it takes you, and so we'll collaborate with you, pass on a lot of knowledge, and I hope I'll be on your mailing list for all the things that happen. You have my email. I'll give it to you. Yeah. I give it to you. Let me give you the opportunity one more time. What number? As soon as you see people gathering, as soon as you see anything irresponsible going on, the number to call it. Oh. This is like running a commercial, though. Shouldn't we be giving you a bill for this? Anyway, we'll let you off this time. Can we have that number again? This is for public service.
0818
Yes.
100
Yes.
2233.
Okay. Mr. Mojola, you can go.
Thank you very much, Uncle Jimmy.
This is almost like going for a job interview. Okay, that's where we'll knock it off for today. Thank you very much, Collins. Don't worry, Mr. Mojola, we'll go out together. he wants to rush out now. Mr. Mojola will be back maybe in about 2 weeks or so, and we'll see how far we'll go. So I'd like to thank Collins. Thanks a billion for being here. And I'd like to thank Philip and all you listeners out there. We'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow is our town hall, okay? So what we will most likely do, I've identified something we'll be discussing tomorrow, and I think I'll also have a young person who we can talk to, find out what exactly he's doing. So, remember, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes like this, put that dial on 99.3, and don't put it off before and even after I have left the studio. If I stop by your house and you're listening to something else, I will seize your radio and all the occupants therein. All right, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.